Fanatic, my name's Troy. I wasn't nervous until Scott started talking to me in the back. He's like, "Can I go first, dude?" Because, I'm in my head. And I'm like, yeah, bro. Obviously, that's not how it worked out, so here we are. So when Phil and Nick asked me, thanks for asking. I really appreciate it. Being asked to share, it's an honor in Narcotics Anonymous. And I was thinking about the topic last night. My brother-in-law texted me, and he's Dominican, and English is his second language. So he's like, when he texts, it doesn't come out right a lot of times. And he asked me, he's like, "Hey man, are you coming to the football game today or tomorrow?" Because today was my son's last football game. He's a little kid, And I was like, "No man, I got to go to this thing." He's in recovery and all that stuff, but he don't fully understand, right? And I'm like, I'm gonna be down there all day. I'm gonna miss it. And he asked me, he goes, "Did you write out your speech?" And I'm like, "No, dude, that's not how, what we do, So, I'm going to talk about that a little bit because that's, where I'm at right now. I've been in a pretty nasty court battle the last, 3 months, really, over my son. Currently, I'm going to court again next month for contempt of court because I withheld my son from his mother. And the reason, and I can't make this up, and this is how I know, God works in funny ways, right? We talk about that a lot around here. It literally says in the contempt hearing, he takes them to NA meetings, and he knows too much because he's around people in recovery. Can you fucking believe that, right? And I laughed when I saw it because I'm like, because for me, that was giving it to the ultimate authority, right? Because I'm like, God fucking got this one. I don't got to do shit. God got this one. So I'm going to back up on that, man, because that's been a process of turning that back over. That's been a process in trusting that, right? And in Guiding Principles, man, on that first page, it talks about, when we're in the process, we're okay because there's an ultimate authority that has our best interest in mind. But I got to be in the process, right? If I'm not in the process, then I can't trust it because I'm not in it, right? And for a lot of years, I wasn't in the process of Narcotics Anonymous. Right? I remember my first meeting. There's a guy, he's here with me, and I remember him from my first meeting. I came to my first meeting, and I wasn't in the process. I sat in the back. I didn't want to talk to you because you weren't like me. You didn't use like I did. All the bullshit that keeps us out of here. And, thank God that's the way it is, man, that, people just love us where we're at, right? I learned that because other men love me. There's still fucking dudes that love me where I'm at. When me and my sponsor talk sometimes, I flat out tell him, because I know what he's going to say. I already know. And half the time, it's just I just need to hear it from somebody else. And I tell him sometimes, motherfucker, I want to be mad for a minute. Because I know you're going to make me get in the solution, and I ain't there yet. Right? So I'll prolong my own suffering. Right? Because I already know there's a solution, but I don't want to be in it. Right? And that's happened a lot recently with my kid. And so I'm going to back up. In February, in a meeting, I'm getting ready to celebrate. Literally getting ready to stand up and grab that key tag. I'm so excited. That weekend is coming. We're doing that. After that weekend's over, I'm going to the Atlanta convention, right, with my significant other and a bunch of friends from all over the country, doing what we do in Narcotics Anonymous, right? I'm excited about that. My son's mother texts me as I'm getting ready to stand up and pick up, and she says, "I'm taking him to the psych ward." He's 9, okay? He's 9. Right? My heart sinks into my stomach. And I'm going to tell you why. Obviously, if you're a parent, you know what that's about. Right? You're a fucking kid. Right? So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, what do I do? And I get up. I go outside and I was like, what is going on? Right? Well, he said he wanted to kill himself. And I said, well, did he say that, or did he say because of you and what you're doing that he wants to kill himself? And I'm not blaming her. I'm just saying, how was that? What context was it in? I need to know that. Well, he doesn't want to be here. Now, this was something that had been ongoing for a few months, right? So I said, okay. So, all right, they're already there. This is happening, right? I don't have a choice at this point. And I'll tell you what. You can't talk about this really without understanding some powerlessness on your own and how that relates. And I was listening to somebody earlier and they were talking about those different levels of powerless, And like that shit deepens the longer I stay clean. And this was one of those fucking situations, right? So I walk in and I'm like, meeting, I don't even want to celebrate, right? Like I don't even want to do that. You know, I want to go down there and like take care of some. So hey, it's already happened. There's nothing you can do. Figure it out in the morning, right? Don't sleep good, whatever. I call down there. What's going on? You know, do not give him medication. First things out of my mouth. Do not give him medication. Because listen, man, like one thing I've learned about being a parent and being in NA is like God's got a funny sense of humor. He gave me a mini-me fucking copy of me, right? He's like this tall. He acts just like I did. He talks back. You know, he does all the shit that I did when I was a kid, right? And like, that's awesome. I love that for him sometimes. But then there's other aspects of it where I'm like, fuck, bro. Like, what are you doing? He called me today, man, on his game. He said after the game, I put the boomstick on this kid. I said, that's my boy. That's my boy. Because he's happy today and he's healthy today. But I called them and there were some things I didn't know, and this is where the powerlessness and being able to trust that I know there's an ultimate authority that has my best interests in mind, and I know he has my son's in mind too, right? But I have to trust that process. So sometimes I want to be in the process, sometimes I don't, right? And during this week that this was going on, I'm dabbling in and out, right? I'm in it, and then fuck you, I'm going to get my lawyer, we're going to figure this out. So what I learned in the state of Pennsylvania is if you admit a minor under the age of 14, you gave up your parental rights. And they can 302 him for a time that they determine that he's well. I know my son. He's not suicidal. But that's a pretty serious thing, right? So I call this social worker down there and I say to him, hey, man, look, he can stay there for a day or two. But come hell or high water, on Monday, he's coming home with me, right? Talking big, right? Now, you know, you don't fucking know who you're talking to, you know, like that stuff. You know, that's where my mind went, right? Like I've been in narcotics long enough now, right? His mom used to take me to the cleaners time and time again. He's a drug addict, he's this, he's that. And she wasn't wrong, and I agreed with him every time. Yep, that's exactly what I am. Then I got to go in there and say, man, that's not what I am. Because of medical fellowship that showed me something different. That told me to trust the process, and there was something bigger at work here. And if I just did what they told me to do and stayed in position, things would happen. And they did, right? They did. So at the time, too, I'm training for the previous year in the sport that I compete in. I got invited to Worlds, and I finished number 5 in the world. I missed podium by half a point. And it was tough, man. It was hard, and it was beautiful, and I was good with just leaving that be where it is. And I got invited back. You know, you got to compete, get an invite, you go back. I got invited back. Okay, I'm going to do that. I'm training for this thing, man. And here's the thing, is I don't always listen, right? Like I pray, but I don't always listen to what God's trying to tell me, right? And that's the tricky spot, right? Sometimes I'm not open to what that authority is trying to tell me. Right? Because I trust and believe that there's something bigger than me, right? In the beginning, it was Narcotics Anonymous because I didn't fucking believe in God when I came here. I didn't want to. I was raised Catholic. I had a lot of resentments, quite frankly, about God, and it came from the fact that when my mother got divorced, because I'm a mama's boy, that they told her she couldn't take communion no more. That's my mom. Fuck you. That's my mom, right? So when I came in here, I had to get a sponsor, right? And he told me that your idea of God is fucked up. Like, he had to put it in those terms. You know? Like, in the literature, it talks about, like, they word it more nicely than that. You know? But, like, he had to tell it to me like that. And I said, you're right, man, it is. But I don't believe in nothing. Right? And, you know, we get those moments where I was talking to a normal guy that I worked with, right? One of the earth people. And he says, he knew I was in recovery, and he said to me, well, hey, man, like, you know, I hear you guys are big into God and all that stuff. And I says, I mean, nah, it's not really like that. Like, yeah, but no, you know, and I've, like, tried to explain it to him. And he's like, well, what do you believe? I said, man, I know there's a God. I have, like, a year clean at this point. I was like, I know there's a God. I know he works in my life. I don't need to know, you know. Biggest thing I learned in recovery was I don't have to fucking know. And that's okay that I don't know. Actually, it's probably better that I don't. Because I'm an addict and I look for the hole in everything. Right? When I got here, I looked for the hole in the literature, in the program, and the way you did things that wasn't going to work for me. Because I'm different somehow. Right? So I tell this guy, I tell him my belief, and he goes, well, isn't that the definition of faith? And I was like, you motherfucker. You know? Don't know where the message is coming from. You know? So anyways, back to my son. We're sitting there, I go down and I'm training, right? I'm down in this gym in Beaver County training, you know, getting ready. I'm a month out, right? And I'm training and I just can't do it. You know, I can't because all I'm thinking about is him. And his mother called me and said, we don't want you to go see him because if you go, we want to go so he doesn't think there's any favoritism. The reason the kid didn't want to go back to his mother's house was because she's in the grips. It's alcohol, so it's okay, right? It's not heroin. It's not what you were doing. So it's okay. Yeah? It's not okay. Because my son doesn't feel safe there. He feels safe with his dad. He said to me the biggest compliment my son ever gave to me. He looked at me and he said, Dad, your house is calm. Right here is where it got me. That's the biggest compliment he could give me, right? Because he's safe, right? So I couldn't do it. I'm on the way back up. I'm from Cochrane, PA, and my home group's on Tuesday night. It's Cochrane Cares. If you're ever up there, we'd love to see you. And I'm driving home, and I'm like, fuck it, man. I go to the psych ward, right? He's at Sharon Regional. I go in, you know, and they bring him out. He got the grippy socks on. If you know, you know. And I'm sure if you do. He comes out, and I'm like crushed, dude. Like, what am I even going to say to this kid? He's 9. Like, he don't belong here. You know, he don't belong here. And I sit down with him, and I got real with him, man. I said, buddy, for a long time, the biggest fear I ever had in my life, all over my step work, was that you would end up somewhere like this. And my sponsor, my first round of steps, told me, you got to turn that over. There's something bigger here. And I turned it over, right? But see, in the process, I'll do that, and then God will say, did you? Why don't we relook at that real quick? Did you turn it over? So, you know, I did, and I sit down with him, and he looks at me real close, and he goes, Dad, these people are crazy. And I said, you know where you are? This is where they fucking take them people. You're in it, bud. You know, you're in it. Because I do want him to learn he can't say shit like that. You know? But I also want him to know that if he feels that way, he can talk to me about it. You know? And we can work through it, man. And I'll help you. Right? He talks to me about shit. It's a good relationship we got. He grew up a little faster than he needed to, but I feel like we all do sometimes. You know? And so I says, all right. I go home. I'm good with it. I talk to him. I said, I'm going to get you out of here on Monday, bud. You're coming home with me. All right. Can I come home with you now? No, you can't. Right? So I go home. I get a phone call from the institution. We want to prescribe your son XYZ. I don't need to get into what it was or why it was. I live with, like, my significant other's a therapist, right? So I know, like, what's going on. She knows what's going on. I said, okay, what'd you diagnose him with? I can't tell you that. The doctor has to tell you that. Boy, that was a tough one, man. I wanted to go down. I said, you know what? Do me a favor. I said, you ain't giving him nothing. I don't consent to it. Pack his shit. I'll be right there to get him. Sir, you can't. This is when I found out in the state of Pennsylvania, under the age of 14, they got the say, not me. Right? And that was a hard fucking pill to swallow, man. And so, like, what do? My first reaction is I'm mad. I'm going, right? I'm going down there, right? Tough guy. All of a sudden, again, reborn, ready to go. You know, the old lady's She's madder than I am because she works in the field. I'm like, oh, you're no help. So I call her. She's ready to go, dude. She's like, I'll go get him. And I'm like, oh, hold on. And so, like, because, like, you know, sometimes at 6 and 7, sometimes a guy used to tell me this all the time. Sometimes my 7 steps, that pause between here and here. And I stopped and I was like, man, I got to call somebody. So I call my sponsor. He don't answer. Call some other people, you know, and they're like, well, what are you going to do? You know, and I'm like, ain't nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do, right? They're not giving him the medication. He's safe. You know, we're going to work this out on Monday. So that was it, man. That was, do you trust? Is there an ultimate authority here that guides our group conscience? Do you believe in a power greater than yourself? Do you believe that he's going to take care of this situation? Yes. And I'm sharing these things because these are current, man. Because, like, in NA, I was taught, we got to talk, man. I got to tell you where I'm at and what's on my soul and on my mind. And the hope of this is this. So I've been in court for the last 3 months because that Sunday I said, he's not coming home with you. He's staying with me. She didn't even want him at this point. And I'm like, okay. And he has a brother. I have another son, too. And, like, he comes home with me, man, and, like, she's okay with it. We try to put him in counseling with her. It doesn't work, you know, all that stuff. So, like, the first day of school, she won't let him know. She don't want him to go to school where I live. But, yeah, she hasn't talked to the kid in a while, right? So I go into court, man, and, like, I remember this. My grandsponsor told me this one time. The first time she went to treatment, I served her with papers, and I was on the fence about serving her with papers, right? Because this was years ago, and, like, I get high and mighty in here too, right? Because I learned some shit. And now I'm like, well, I want to be self-righteous. I don't want to put her through what she put me through because I'm better than that, right? And so I learned some things about that, you know, that I called my grand sponsor and talking to him about it, and he says, why did you hire an attorney? I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Right. You asked for outside help. Let them do their fucking job. Okay, because that's what she's suggesting. So we do that, right? We do that. And, like, the fact of the matter is, man, like, going through this whole process, like, relive it every 3 years. So I know there's, like, these lessons that keep coming back up. And, like, how my higher power works is, if I don't get it the first time, he's going to represent it. And it usually hurts more if I keep fighting it or I'm not getting it. You know, there's more consequences. There's more pain involved. And he said, motherfucker, you're hard-headed, you know, and I am. And that's okay. Like, until I get beat into a position where something has to change, right? So this time something did change. I stepped back. I have a lawyer. Do it. Do what you got to do, right? She gets to see him 2 hours a month. That's it, right? They deemed that was what was best. What was best for me, that was what was best for the child, that was what was best, right? And that's because I trust something more than me, right? Because I could have put my hands in that in the worst kind of way so many times. Because all my track record has shown when I do that, I cause myself more pain every single fucking time, right? I'll get in it, I'll put my hands in it, shit goes fucking bad. That's my experience. Between active addiction to getting clean to staying clean now, right? I don't get to stay clean if I don't trust the process, but I got to be in it, right? One of the best things I love about Narcotics Anonymous, and this was one of those mind moments for me too, was like at my home group, I recently had some like turmoil in that with some members, and I've learned, man, in Narcotics Anonymous, everything comes out in the fucking wash eventually. Eventually shit gets revealed. We don't stick around too long without being able to reveal ourselves for who we really are. If we're in the process, especially, because we don't have a fucking choice if we're working steps, you know. And you know, I've learned that I don't have to fucking like everybody here, but I gotta love you. I gotta love you, right? And like that's like a big thing for me, man, because I used to come in here and have resentments, you know, like something wouldn't go my way at area, or something wouldn't go my way at my home group, you know. And this old timer always told me, man, he say, look, group conscience is gonna be carried out one way or another. Whether you get it right or whether you fuck it up and you got to fix it, you know? And I always held on to that because, like, that tells me that Narcotics Anonymous ain't that fragile. I'm not going to break it. Nothing that I'm going to do I'm free here to make mistakes because you guys let me make mistakes and you help me and you love me through it anyways. So, fucking Phil with his 5-minute sign. I think he loves that job too much. He's like, you're almost done, motherfucker. So, with that, I lost my train of thought. So, like, that's me trusting this, and how dare you guys make me look at me with that fucking mirror. That was clever. And, it's a good day to be clean, man. Thanks for letting me share.